I always find it difficult to do these rankings because usually, especially when I'm doing it for the full year and I'm going back, it's just so tough to put things where they go. But we're going to give it a shot and go with the ranking that we have. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing my top 10 books of the year, and I'm pretty comfortable with the 10 books I have on the list. They all belong in the top 10. The order, though, is sort of up for complete debate, so I'm not going to put a lot of stock in this. This is the order I kind of quickly put them in, and I could agonize over these lists forever. So take that with a grain of salt. There's a couple of books that are tied kind of for whatever their respective places. So we're not going to necessarily go specifically and do the full top 10, but these are 10 just really, really great books that I read this year. I do have some honorable mentions. These are books that had I actually done a top 10 of like quarter 3 or quarter 4, I did do a top 10 of the first half of the year, which I'll link below if you want to see everything there. But if I would have done those for the third and fourth quarters, these books would have made an appearance on one of those lists. And that includes Proxima Station by Mike Molman. This is the first in his Proxima Station new series, and this was just delightfully fun. Just kind of zany sci-fi, a little bit of Hitchhiker's Guide, a little bit of Star Trek and other fun elements of just fun sci-fi, and I enjoyed it and read it very, very quickly. It was a whole lot of fun. And then Children of Earth and Sky by Guy Gabriel Kay, which I really enjoyed, but this one is more so the victim of me enjoying the other ones I read a lot more. You'll definitely be seeing more Guy Gabriel Kay on the list, never fear. And Tekla, which is in this Bind Up the Book of Taltos, which I think might be my favorite of the Lad Taltos books so far. Although it's just, the further I've gotten into the series, the more the characters are established and the character voice is established. I've just really been enjoying it. So those are some honorable mentions. I will mention as well as The Memory of the Ogisi. The only thing here I don't have physically yet, I have the first two now. This is the third book in the Forever Desert trilogy, and it was a really interesting, unique fantasy sort of part fable, part tale, and exploration on stories. Just really, really cool, fun time. So that one there as well. Now, let's get into the meat of the 10 best, no more honorable mentions. And we're going to kick things off with Daughter of the Empire by Raymond Feist and Janie Wirtz. And this is one that I saved this for my last book of the year, and I figured it would probably end up on this list. Originally, I thought it would end up being higher on the list, and I did quite enjoy this. I think partially it's just that I have been straying a little bit more away from the more traditional type of fantasy, and while I really enjoyed, Magician and the first Rift War trilogy, those books, I'm just a little bit less into that here. And this one did take me a little bit to get into, but it is just really good. And it does, I enjoyed a lot of what it did and also what it didn't do. It does some traditional tropes and things that it explores, but it goes some different ways, some more realistic ways, and also starts to really heat it up with like the political intrigue and the scheming, and does it in a really satisfying way. So I completely get why this is a very beloved book, and I am excited to continue. Definitely did belong on the list. Then we have All the Seas of the World. And this is another one that I actually really love this. I know this is not looked at as being one of the like better or the top tier Guy Gabriel Kay books. Granted, with Guy Gabriel Kay, all of his books, I'm kind of rating them against each other. I read this before Children of Earth and Sky. Children of Earth and Sky was my least favorite of that kind of the chunk of connected ones. But I really enjoyed this. It's not much of a surprise when I read a Guy Gabriel Kay book and I love it, but this was around the same time period as Children of Earth and Sky and A Brightness Long Ago. There's some shared characters and just exploring some similar ideas but in different ways. And it's just, it's always so hard for me to describe all the things I love about Kay and the way he writes. He's just one of those authors that just clicks with me so well. It's beautiful, and I just experience his books, and I particularly loved this one as well. And it definitely was above Children of Earth and Sky for me. And then the one that's a new series for this year, I have Barrier by Lois McMaster Bujold. This is the second Vorkosigan book, and it is still following Cordelia. And I really like Shards of Honor, but I really loved this book. This is my favorite out of the ones that I've read so far, and I'm still going. But Barry R just did so many things because it took the character of Cordelia that was established, and this focuses on just some elements that you don't often see. There is kind of a bit of romance, but more so it's Cordelia follows her pregnant and kind of following that journey. And the way that that was written, it's just not something you see very often. And there's twists and turns, there's action, there's politics, and just the voice of the character, the writing style. There's some comedy, there's some drama. Sometimes it's dark, sometimes it's light, sometimes it's this sardonic. It's so good, and the voice here and the voice that the author writes with is just fantastic. And I've done the first Miles book now after this, and I really did enjoy that as well. But just this book, this is the book where I'm like, I'm so sold on this series, and I knew I was going to be wanting to read the whole thing after this book because Barry R is just top notch. Totally get all the people who told me for a long time to check out Vorko's again. It is really good and definitely worth checking out. So I highly recommend. And yeah, start with the Cordelia books. I cannot stress that enough. Start with those ones. I think it'll give you a better experience personally. Next up, we have our first tie because I couldn't figure out exactly where to put these ones, and that is The Nameless Land by Kate Elliott and The Execution of Rooker Flynn. Actually, this is the first book because I realized I still need to get copies. I meant to get some from the author when I saw him earlier, or sometime last year, and realized I did not do that. But I put both of these here because these are both the culmination of a series. With Rooker Flynn, it was a trilogy. With The Nameless Land, it was the duology for the Witch Roads. And both of them just do some really, really fantastic things. In the Witch Roads, we establish this kind of really unique group of characters. And talking to the author Kate Elliott, she said she wants it to be like, the spear chuckers, just the everyday people that you don't normally focus on. And that's kind of what we're doing. We have these regular people and they're going on a quest. There's a lot of stuff revealed, but in this book, you just roll with it. And the world building is really great here. That's one of the things I love about Kate Elliott. But the characters, I connected with them so much, and the emotions that you feel for these characters and feel with these characters also just really, really pulled me in and kept me going. And I love just how much this deals with the everyday and the mundane in a really great way, where you're focusing on all the little things too and how they impact the world. And it's just something that Kate Elliott does such a fantastic job with, and I absolutely love. And so this was great. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the duology so much more than I even expected to. And it's Kate Elliott, so she expected to really enjoy it, but I really, really ended up loving this. So it was a great time. With the Rooker Flynn books, too. This is one where, when I first did the Crimes of Rooker Flynn, this was the only one I'm like, I wasn't 100% sold yet. And then book 2, I felt like really bumped up and I kind of clicked and I knew what I was getting into and I enjoyed it a lot more. And then book 3 just really brought it home. And it's the big thing too. And when I talked to Andy, the author of this one too, I actually had both of these authors on my show, and just talked to him about it too. Because the big thing is it's the friendship between the two main characters, Jack and Rooker, and it's just the way that is written. It's just not something you get enough of in books, I feel like, where friendship is really focused on. And it was just so good, and it was just beautiful and compelling and just like heartbreaking and just, in the best way. So again, the emotions here and just the way that A.R. Witham tells the story, really, really great. And so both of those were just phenomenal. Moving to the next one, and I was actually just talking about this, we have Song of the Beast by Carol Berg. Now, this was a pretty early in the year one for me, and so it's funny because I just happened to be talking about this, somebody else who was reading it recently. This is one of those books where I find myself, whenever I think about it, I'm more talking about how much I loved the structure of it and the craft of how this was written than the story itself. Now, world building is really great. The beginning of this book, what a draw. It's like, it is the kind of book that will pull you in immediately. But then there's a thing that it does, and I won't specifically say. It's probably not even really a spoiler, but there's a thing that it does a really interesting narrative choice where it just kind of throws something at you, and I think it tends to not necessarily work for everybody. And also, I've heard the sort of the romance that's in here doesn't work for everybody either. But I was so intrigued with the way that the story was written and the way the narrative was structured and the world, the characters. It was such a draw. And sometimes I find myself just really appreciating the heck out of a book. This was just a phenomenal book for me. I loved the way that it was written and designed. It just felt like an author who'd been writing for decades. And Carol Berg actually was one. I think when I originally reviewed this, I was under the impression that she had been writing for a really long time, and actually not nearly as long as I thought. And so just really great. Again, it's one I recommend checking out, especially if it's a standalone too. It's very compelling, has a fascinating world and characters, and does some interesting things. Might not end up working for everybody, but it's something I think at least it's one to experience. So I had a really good time with it. And then next up, and also we're getting to the point here too. I feel like the rest of these aren't so much a surprise. There is still one that is kind of nuts to me that I have as high as I do because it was surprising. This is not that one though, because next up we have A Man Rides Through by Stephen R. Donaldson. And if I'm reading Donaldson, chances are Donaldson's going to be on a list like this because he's just one of my favorite authors. And his stuff is challenging but good. And I've talked a bit about this when I actually I talked. I ended up selling Joanna on this when I talked about it when on the live show I had her on. And this is just a series that I totally get why, again, it's not necessarily going to work for everybody. It deals with a very passive character at the start, but it's so beautifully written. And it's following a portal fantasy, and it's using mirrors to some of these elements that are familiar, but it's the exploration of these characters and this world and the way that it's done. And it's just Donaldson, the way he really just digs deep into characters and really explores it. It's just he kind of forces you to identify and feel for these characters. And if you can't get there, sometimes it's just the characters can be a little bit abrasive. It can be a struggle. But this is the second book of a duology. The first one's The Mirror for Dreams, and I enjoyed both, but this second book just really sent it home, and I enjoyed this immensely. This is a much lower bar to entry than his other series that I've read. If you maybe don't want to do Covenant, don't want to do Gas Cycle, this one is much easier to get to. It's two books technically. It's really more like four. It's split into four books if you read the duology, and it's treated almost as one big one too. But yeah, this is one if you want to try Donaldson, but don't want to commit to those for a variety of reasons, totally fine. I do recommend checking out this duology. It's easier to get into, I feel like, and it just still has on display fully what Donaldson is capable of, and he is just a phenomenal author. So next up we had, and this is the one that's still surprising to me. I put Magician's Land. So The Magicians by Leif Grossman was one of the most shocking book experiences for me, and I could not tell you how long. I had it ranked at my number 3 book, and this is where actually I think I had Song of the Beast higher than The Magicians when I rated that, and I think it was my number 3 for the first half of the year. Magician's Land is it's where I'm kind of torn on where I specifically rank those books. I think the second one was my least favorite overall, but I enjoyed all of them. But Magician's Land just kind of brought full circle all of the things that he was doing with the themes, with the story, and he was kind of trying to tie it up because he wrote the books sort of independently of each other in some ways. But I expected to not particularly like Magicians. I didn't think it was going to work for me. And it ended up being one of my favorite series that I've read this year. It was really compelling and also, again, hard to get into. Abrasive characters, totally get it. I will say the TV show makes a lot of changes to make the characters a little bit more likable. And so we're almost done watching it. We're on the last season and don't have a ton left. But does a lot to make it more likable while still hitting on a lot of the big things. But yeah, it's it is abrasive. The characters, none of the characters are particularly likable for the most part, and it's not always the best thing if you identify with them. But I feel like you can end up identifying with some, even if not the main character. But just really, what he did here, I appreciate so much, and it's just that sort of the jaded, adult now fantasy fan and thinking about just all of the stuff, a lot of the feelings you have reading fantasy as a child, and it's exploring that in a more sarcastic and sardonic way as an adult, and just looking back about things not being really all there, not all they're cracked up to be. It's just thematically, it's something I've read before, but not quite the way that Leif Grossman does it. It's absolutely something I think that's worth checking out and giving a shot. Not going to work for everybody, along with a lot of my favorites, but I think it's absolutely worth checking out for sure. And then we have the tie, which is the last 2 books. And this was so hard because both of these are not only favorite books of this year, they're some of my favorite books I've ever read. This we started the first half of the year. There was no question what my favorite book was. Second half of the year, no question what my favorite book was. But then you get to trying to put them together, and those books are The Warrior Prophet and A Brightness Long Ago. And yeah, The Warrior Prophet I'll talk about first because I did this one the first half of the year. And this was the book where I just really started to see what Baker could do as well. The Darkness, this is book 2, and The Darkness That Comes Before is the first book of the Prince Nothing trilogy. And I was very impressed with Baker's writing and what he was doing. But this is where you really start to see things take shape. And this is just such a strong book. There's a lot that happens, a lot of movement, a lot of exploration. And then the third book, which I've heard people say is the weakest, and I do agree, but also I thought the third book was still really freaking good. And I thought it really did accomplish a lot, even though it does lead very much into the next book and doesn't have like a quote unquote ending. Some arcs definitely end, but The Warrior Prophet is just I didn't expect to be so incredibly sold and in love with Baker's writing as quickly as I was, but that's what this book was for me. I just legitimately I'm like, okay. I had been so nervous to start this series, and this is still one of those series that is a kind of a tough recommend because there's a lot of content in it that is dark and can be hard to read, and I think that only continues in the Aspect Emperor. But the way that Baker writes and the way his prose in general is just some of the best I've read, as well as the way he writes theme and the way he writes with intention is just, there are very, very few authors I've ever read who have, who can write the way that Baker can or even approach it. Really phenomenal. And it's dark, and there's a lot of nihilism, especially like I said, I think in the second series, but still just it's also beautiful at the same time, and it's just, yeah, it's one of those books that I totally get will not work for everybody. Didn't think it was going to work for me, but it is something to experience as well. And then A Brightness Long Ago, which was a pretty early book in the second half of the year for me, but when I read, and this is my second favorite Guy Gardner Kay book. I still have Lions of Awasan on top of this, but this was just a beautiful book. And this deals a lot with memories. The setup of this one, this is a framed narrative where the main character is older now, but he's telling the stories of his youth and the important things he was involved in and how he got where he was. And Kay always has beautiful passages, beautiful quotes, beautiful things, but this was just almost a surreal experience for me reading this book. I loved it absolutely so much. I think about this regularly, and this is where it's connected, like I said, with All the Seas and Children, Earth and Sky. This is by far my favorite out of those. I loved this book so much. And it's just beautiful, and just again, Kay is another very theme oriented type of writer, and he a lot of times will explore similar ideas, themes, and character archetypes in different parts of history. And this is, things he wrote together, but this particular novel, just with what it explores and the way that it does it, I just was hooked from the very first page, the very first line. I was so in it, which the first line, um, a man no longer young in a large room at night, where it starts. And it's just, it's such an interesting way to write a line, and it's just setting the scene. And it's the man no longer young in a room at night, and it's just reminiscing and thinking about memories. This is one of the first ones I read too, with the style Kate has more so in his like later works, where it's hopping around a bit, looking at different people's heads, and a little bit less in the normal narrative structure, with like POVs at least anyway that he did in his earlier work. And it's just, yeah, it's beautiful. If you like Kay, I feel like I know there's all of Kay's books have a lot of wide opinions, but again, it's just one of those books that for me was such an experience. It was so much more than just a book. It was the experience here, and both of these books were just transcendent reading experiences for me that I could not believe how just engaged and pulled in I was in both of these books. Both absolutely some all-time favorite books for me. Don't make me do that list. I don't think I ever could figure it out, but definitely you talk about some favorite books of all time. Both of those belong there, so I found it very difficult to choose between the two. So there they are. Those are the two there, and those are my top 10 plus honorable mentions of 2025. Let me know your thoughts on any of these. I know it's funny just looking at how many of these are very divisive books. Some of them I think are more like just generally liked, but a lot of divisive books here, which tends to be my thing. I like a lot of books that aren't always the most popular, but let me know your thoughts on any of these. If there were any surprises for you, or any that you think I missed that I read that I probably should have had, because it's very possible that I missed something. But I feel pretty happy with this. It was a really solid year, especially with. Just so many books, and a lot of these from all different parts of the year. I had almost an equal amount from like the beginning as the end, because some of them were just I read the first book in a series at the beginning of the year, and then I read the second one later, or the third, or whatever. So just a lot there, but it was some really strong beats here. So let me know your thoughts. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description as always for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizard of the Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether any of these books, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun. We'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.